Hey guys, Emily from Foodbox HQ here. Today we're talking about Lomi. Lomi is a countertop compost system that turns your food waste into soil in less than a day. We'll talk about what Lomi is, how to set it up, how it works, as well as our experience with it so far. But first let's go over what composting is and why it's beneficial. Composting is basically a way of turning stuff like food scraps and yard waste into super nutritious fertilizer that can help make soil healthier and plants happier. You might ask yourself, why not just throw away food scraps? Won't it just break down in the landfill? Well, there are a few key benefits, first being greenhouse gas emissions. When organic waste is buried in landfills, it decomposes without oxygen and releases methane, a potent greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. Composting, on the other hand, produces carbon dioxide when it breaks down, so that's a less potent greenhouse gas. Secondly, composting creates healthy soil. It allows organic matter to break down into a nutrient-rich soil amendment that can be added to your garden and improve its fertility and structure. When food breaks down in a landfill, we don't get that usable soil, and it can even produce harmful chemicals that can contaminate groundwater. Lastly, composting can save you and your town money. Towns save money by reducing the amount of waste that needs to be transported to landfills, and you save money on plant fertilizer for your garden. If you're like me, composting seems like a great idea, but then you start looking into how to compost. You've probably been a little bit put off by the idea of old food rotting away, sitting in your kitchen, smelling up the place. Well, this is where Lomi comes in. Lomi is a countertop composting bin that not only has a locking top to seal away the smell, but it even cuts down on the amount of time it takes for food to break down. Normally, composting can take anywhere between weeks to months to even years before you have usable soil, but Lomi can break down these scraps in less than a day. So let's check out what's in the box and how to set it up. Once you've taken your Lomi out of the box, first take off the locking top. This just turns to the counterclockwise direction and pops right off. Inside you're gonna see a main bucket right here and the filter. So there are little red arrows on the bucket and the machine so that you can line that bucket up correctly. And there's also markings on the top here to make sure that you're locking it accurately. The first thing you're gonna do is add activated charcoal to 2 of the filters. So there's this filter here that we talked about, as well as one in the back. Once you've filled up your bucket with food scraps, you're ready to start running your Lomi. There are 3 different modes you can choose from. So the first one is called the Eco Express mode. So this takes only about 3 to 5 hours to go from scraps all the way to soil. However, keep in mind you can't put any bioplastics, compostable commercial goods, or anything else in this mode, so food only. The second is called the Lomi Approved Mode. So this can take all types of items. You can put in those compostable utensils, and this is gonna take about 5 to 8 hours to complete. And then there's the Grow mode. So Grow mode uses a lower heat temperature to preserve microorganisms that really help your plant's food. And this can actually take between 18 to 20 hours, so it's definitely a little bit longer, but a lot faster than doing it without Lomi. For any of the modes, you can also add these little tablets. They're called compost accelerators, and those help boost microorganisms in the soil. So you'll just take one of these, add some water, and add it to your compost before you start running the mode. When running, the Lomi does make a little bit of noise. It's nothing extremely distracting, but it is something you'll probably notice. I'd say it's probably about the level of a window AC, so you'll hear it, but you'll probably eventually tune it out. So we've been using our Lomi for about a month now, and I have to say I'm really impressed. It's a little bit bigger for our counter space, so we actually have it over in the next room, but it's not that large. We're just a little bit short on counter space here. It's really easy to run. It's really convenient to have something right next to the kitchen. Although I will say the bin fills up a little bit faster than I'd expect, so we've been running that express mode a bunch so that I can keep up with the scraps from my weekly meals. But that means I have a lot of soil to use for my plants, and while I'm not a plant expert, they do seem to be thriving so far. There are a few things to keep in mind. In order to get an ideal soil additive, you do need to have a balanced mix of ingredients so you won't have the same results every single time. Also, the bucket is a little bit on the smaller side to keep the device countertop sized, so you might need to run this multiple times a week, which, because this runs on electricity, might not be the most sustainable option for larger households. Lastly, this is on the expensive side. Not only is this machine itself expensive, but you'll also need to purchase the pellets and the charcoal regularly over time, so there is an added cost. However, you do save on things like fertilizer, and you won't be taking out your trash just as regularly, so it's all up to your own preference. So who shouldn't consider Lomi? First, people who don't want to use additional electricity for composting, as that does kind of eat into your sustainability. Large households with a lot of food scraps, avid gardeners who maybe have a lot more space outside for more traditional composting methods, or those who don't want to spend a ton of money on a composting device as well as the refills for the filters and the pellets. Lomi is great for people who live in an apartment, a condo, or a townhome who don't have a lot of outdoor space. It's also great for people who want to improve their sustainability habits but don't want that smelly food waste in their kitchen. It's also great for home gardeners who want to be able to save on soil additives, and anyone who wants an alternative to traditional composting. If you're interested in marrying sustainability and technology through composting, click the link below and check out Lomi. Ta-da!